All right, Jeremy Hazel here from 7 Seasons Studios. And if you like what you see and you want more, this comes from our class, The Ultimate Guide to Mockups in Affinity Photo and Photoshop, which is available in the subscription plan at the link below. So if you like what you see and you want more, click on the link below to check out how you can get all of our content for one low monthly price. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Alright gang, and welcome to this lesson on Blender. Now, this is a bonus lesson. We're talking about mockups here. So, in this mockup course, we wanted to include for you just an overview of some of the software that you could use. And so, what I thought I'd do, I'd give you a mockup of a tin can that you can use in Blender. Now, the challenge with this, and full disclosure, I'm not the best at Blender. There are people who could model right around me any day of the week. I know enough to be dangerous in Blender. I know enough to get where I need to get to, but I'll tell you, I use this program primarily for doing things like logo extrusions and stuff like this. So we're not going to be making complicated scenes. And if you're not familiar with Blender, think of this as just an introduction to a free software. Blender is completely free, and it is used to make animated features. It is used in industry, and so it is an extremely powerful software. So what I'm going to be showing you today is just the bare bones basics of Blender, just enough to get by with this project. So full disclosure, setting expectation. All right, when you open up Blender for the first time, you come over here and it will come to the default cube, okay? This window here has a couple things in it. Now, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to left click on these things and I'm going to name them. If you click on the cube, over here, it shows the cube. If you click right here on this little thing in your window, that shows your camera. And that right there shows your light. Okay, now as you figured out, the left mouse button is for select. Now there are different modes in Blender. You need to know about the modes. The modes are up here. We are in what is called object mode. Then there's edit mode. Blender has a lot of sculpting tools. We're going to be using object and edit mode only in this course, okay? And again, this is a very simple tactical lesson. I'm going to be showing you what you need to tie this Blender into Affinity Photo so that you can do a wraparound of a can. Now, let's go ahead and I'm going to show you something here. Select the cube, just take the middle mouse wheel and scroll it forward. Okay? That's how you zoom. There are other ways. And anybody right now that knows Blender and says that I'm not using the hotkeys and all of this stuff, I don't teach with hotkeys, okay? I do just enough to get you by because I want you to understand the menus. Now let's do this. This is a 3D scene. Up here in the corner, you see a little widget. These are the three axes of 3D. You've got your x-axis, which is red. It's running this way. You've got your y-axis, which is green. It's running this way. And you've got your z, or your z-axis, which is running up and down. Now watch this. If I come in, click and hold the middle mouse button, so I'm holding it down, and I start moving to the right, I can start manipulating around my scene. Now I'm just applying downward pressure to my middle mouse button. And for those that are more advanced than this, realize that I will be going very slow in this because there's a lot of people who have never even seen Blender. So you know how to zoom, you know how to scroll back, and now by pushing the middle mouse button, you're able to apply pressure to move around your scene. And this is part of your scene. There's a camera, there's a light, and there's a cube. if you so wanted to add to the scene, you come up to add, let's add mesh, and let's just make a little UV sphere. Now where to go? You see the little orange circle here? It's in there. And you see there's a sphere here. What we have to do is we have to move it out. So I'm going to show you how to move an object, just bare bones here. Go to your transform widget. And you remember the red axis is the x-axis, the green is the y, and the blue is the z. That's the same as up here. Grab the arrow and let's slide it out. Now, click back to select. And now you are back in the scene and you have two objects. Now, what do you do if you don't want an object? Well, let's say we don't want this cube. Select it and hit delete. But what if you did want the cube? This button is going to be your best friend. Let's go Control Z. And now Control Z brings back the cube. It undoes the last step, just like in Affinity. If you don't like the UV sphere, you can delete it. Okay, so basic controls. Zoom is front mouse wheel, back out, back mouse wheel. To rotate around your scene, you're going to hold the middle mouse button. Now, what happens if you want to move? Hold Shift, and now you're moving around the entire scene. So if I wanted to see something over here, I could. Okay? That's how you hold and shift to move. Okay, now you saw I just went under the floor. Whoop! There's the floor. Floor is lava. Nope, that's what's called the floor plane. Okay? This is important because where's our 3D cursor? This little thing with the crosshair. It's at 0, 0, 0 in our scene. That's what's called the origin point, right? So right now, that is straight up 0 in our scene. So our location is going to be relative to that 0 point right now. And for the purposes of this tutorial. Okay, I want to stretch to one more conceptual thing before we get into basic manipulation. Let's go ahead and hold Shift. I'm going to zoom, kind of pan back over there. Okay. All right, so there's my cube. Now, if I'm in edit mode, I'm switching modes now. Notice I can't select it. I have to now click on the object. Let's go to edit. Okay, all modeling works on a very simple premise. Okay? So, there are points. Notice these little orange points right here. That's what's called a point, right? If you have 2 points, it forms a line. So between here and here, there's a line. And once you have 3 points, you have what is called a face. Now, I've been using the term points. They're going to use the more official term, vertex, right? So in edit mode, I can go into vertex select. I can go into edge select, or I can go into face select. The good news is you're only going to have to touch this button a couple times. Now along this side here, there's some other stuff. There's the move function, so you can move your object up, down, left, right. There's a rotate option, so you can rotate your object around. The good news is we're not going to be using a lot of these functions because I've already taken the model to a point of doneness where you won't have to mess with this. But I wanted to give you at least an overview of what's possible. You can scale. Now, if you wanted to scale along the Z, what do you think is going to happen? It's going to turn into more of a t-shirt box, right? That's cool. You could scale this out. These are the basic tools of modeling. And if you go to transform, Now we combine the movement with the arrow, with the scaling and the square, and the rotation of the circle. This little gizmo is super powerful. All right. The last thing that I want to show you that makes this work. Let's come over here to the different views. Now, what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be spending a lot of time in what is called kind of a wireframe mode. Okay, right here. Display the object as wire edges. Now, this is everything I told you here. Let's go ahead and just select. You see the vertices? Nah, look at that. I threw in a new word, vertices instead of vertex, right? You got vertices, more than one. You got edges. Well, I can't select an edge. Why not? Right here, make sure you're in edge select. Now I'm in edge select. And if I want to select a face, I have to be in face select. Now I can select different faces on my cube. All right, let's go ahead and call this one here. I don't want to make these too long. And again, this is not designed to be a how-to Blender. In order to get real good at Blender, you're going to have to spend hours and hours and hours. I will tell you that it's probably 2 to 3 times what it took you to get comfortable with 2D art. All right, let's go ahead and stop this one here. And in the next lesson, we're going to bring in our soda can and we're going to explore it now that we kind of know what's going on. All right, we'll see you in the next one.